The formula can was empty. Clara Whitmore shook it one more time, as if hoping might make something appear. Nothing did. She set it down on the counter of her studio apartment in the Bronx, where the overhead light had been flickering for 3 days because she couldn't afford a new bulb. In her arms, 8-month-old Lily whimpered. That quiet, exhausted cry of a baby too hungry to scream anymore. "I know, sweetheart." Clara's voice cracked. "Mama's working on it." Outside, fireworks popped in the distance. New Year's Eve. The whole world was celebrating, counting down to midnight, making resolutions about gym memberships and vacations and all the things people worried about when they weren't wondering how to feed their children. Clara opened her wallet. $3.27. Formula cost $18. The cheap kind. The expensive kind, the sensitive stomach formula Lily needed, cost $24. She'd done the math 100 times. The math never changed. Her phone buzzed with a notification she didn't need to read. Rent overdue. 12 days. Final notice. Clara walked to the window, bouncing Lily gently. From here, if she craned her neck, she could see Manhattan's skyline glittering across the river. That other world where people were probably drinking champagne and wearing clothes that cost more than her monthly rent. 3 months ago, she'd been closer to that world. Not rich, never rich, but stable. A real job at Harmon Financial Services. Benefits. A desk with her name on it. Then she'd noticed the numbers, small discrepancies, transactions that didn't add up, money flowing to vendors she couldn't identify. She'd asked her supervisor about it. Just a question, just trying to understand. 1 week later, HR called her in. Position eliminated due to restructuring. They took her laptop before she could save anything. Security walked her out like a criminal. That was October. This was December 31st. Now she worked nights at Quick Mart for $12.75 an hour, no benefits, and a manager who looked at her like she was something stuck to his shoe. The numbers still didn't work. Every week she fell further behind. And now the formula was gone. There was one person left to call. One lifeline Clara had been saving for true emergency. Evelyn Torres. Clara had met her at Harbor Grace Shelter 2 years ago, 7 months pregnant and sleeping in her car after her boyfriend cleaned out their joint account and vanished. Evelyn ran the shelter, 67 years old, silver-haired, with a heart big enough to hold every broken person who walked through her doors. When Clara left after Lily's birth, Evelyn had pressed a card into her hand. "You call me anytime. I mean it. You're not alone." Clara had never called. Pride was sometimes the only thing she had left. But Lily was hungry. She pulled out her phone and found Evelyn's number, the one she'd saved 18 months ago. Her fingers shook as she typed. "Mrs. Evelyn, I know tonight is busy and I'm so sorry to bother you, but I don't have anyone else. Lily's formula ran out, and I only have $3. I just need $50 to get through until my paycheck Friday. I promise I'll pay you back. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to ask." She hit send before she could talk herself out of it. 11:31 p.m. What Clara couldn't know, was that Evelyn Torres had changed her phone number 2 weeks ago. The old number now belonged to someone else. 47 floors above Manhattan, Ethan Mercer stood alone in an $87 million penthouse, watching fireworks explode over a city that worshipped him. The space around him was a monument to success. Italian marble floors, museum-quality art, furniture that cost more than most people earned in a decade. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see Central Park to the north, the Hudson to the west, the glittering sprawl of downtown to the south. On the kitchen island, a bottle of Dom Perignon sat unopened. His assistant had left it with a note reminding him that the New Year's Eve gala at the Ritz was expecting him at 10. Ethan hadn't gone to the gala. He'd told himself he was tired. Early meetings on January 2nd, he'd been to enough parties. The truth was simpler. He couldn't stand one more countdown surrounded by people who wanted things from him. His money, his connections, his face on their charity boards. Nobody at that gala would see him. They'd see what he could give them. So he stayed home, alone, in $87 million worth of empty space. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Probably another pitch. Another scam. He almost swiped it away. Then the preview caught his eye. Lily's formula ran out, and I only have $3. Ethan opened the message. He read it twice. Then a third time. This wasn't a scam. Scammers didn't apologize this much. Scammers asked for wire transfers and crypto, not $50. This was real. Someone had texted a wrong number, reaching out to a lifeline that wasn't there, asking for $50 to feed their baby on New Year's Eve. $50. The automatic tip he left on a bar tab without thinking. Something cold moved through Ethan's chest. 30 years ago. Queens. A one-room apartment above a laundromat. His mother working 3 jobs that still didn't cover rent and food and medicine for the cough she couldn't shake. He remembered being hungry. Not the vague hunger of a late lunch. The deep, cellular hunger of poverty that made you lightheaded and taught you to ignore the cramps because complaining didn't make food appear. He remembered his mother apologizing. "I'm sorry, baby. Mama's working on it. She died 2 weeks before Christmas. Pneumonia, the doctor said." But Ethan knew the truth. She died of poverty. Of not being able to afford to take time off when she was sick. Of not having insurance. Of a system that chewed up people like her and spit out their bones. After that came foster care. Group homes. Years of surviving because no one was going to save him. He built Mercer Capital from nothing. Made himself into someone the world couldn't ignore. Accumulated more money than any human could spend in 100 lifetimes. But he'd never forgotten that apartment above the laundromat. Never forgotten his mother apologizing for things that weren't her fault. Ethan picked up his phone and called the only person he trusted with tasks that required discretion. "Marcus, I need you to trace a phone number, now." 12 minutes later, Ethan had everything. Clara Whitmore, 28 years old. Address, apartment 4F, 1847 Sedgwick Avenue, Riverdale. Single mother, 1 daughter, 8 months. Former accountant at Harmon Financial, terminated 3 months ago. Currently part-time cashier at Quick Mart. The credit report made his chest tight. Maxed cards. Medical debt from childbirth, she was paying $25 at a time. A car repossessed 2 months ago. Preliminary eviction paperwork filed 3 days ago. This woman was drowning. Ethan grabbed his coat. "Marcus, meet me at the garage. We're making a stop." They stopped at a 24-hour pharmacy on the way. Ethan walked the aisles himself, ignoring the cashier's stares. Formula, the expensive kind. 3 cans. Diapers. Baby food. Infant Tylenol. A soft blanket with stars on it. Then groceries from a deli still open for the holiday rush. Real food. Fresh fruit. Good bread. Things Clara Whitmore probably hadn't afforded in months. The building on Sedgwick Avenue was tired. Decades of deferred maintenance. Landlords who squeezed every penny from tenants while giving nothing back. The hallway smelled like mildew. Half the lights were burned out. The elevator had an out-of-order sign that looked permanent. They climbed 4 flights of stairs. From inside apartment 4F, Ethan heard a thin sound, almost like a cat mewing. A baby crying. Too tired to really cry anymore, he knocked, footsteps inside, light, tentative. "Who is it?" A woman's voice high with fear. "My name is Ethan Mercer. I received a text message meant for someone named Evelyn. A message asking for help." Silence. "I'm not here to hurt you. I brought the formula. Please, open the door." Seconds ticked by. Then the deadbolt clicked. The door opened 3 inches, stopped by a chain lock. Through the gap, Ethan saw a face, young but tired, auburn hair in a messy ponytail, eyes red-rimmed. She was small, wearing an oversized sweater with a hole in the sleeve, holding a baby against her shoulder. The baby had her mother's auburn hair. Her cheeks were pale instead of pink, the sign of a child not eating enough. "You're Clara Whitmore?" "You're Clara Whitmore?" Her eyes went wide. He saw the fear spike. "How does he know my name?" "How did you?" "I traced the number. When I got your message, I traced it. I know that sounds." He stopped. There was no way to make that sound not alarming. "You texted the wrong number. It came to me, and I couldn't just ignore it." Clara stared at him through the gap. Her eyes moved over what she could see, the expensive coat, the watch, the security man behind him. "This is some kind of scam." "It's not a scam." Ethan held up the bags. "It's formula, and food. No strings. You asked for $50, and I wanted to do more than send money." The baby whimpered. Clara's arms tightened automatically. "You came to the Bronx at midnight on New Year's Eve to bring formula to a stranger?" "Yes." "Why?" Ethan looked at her, really looked, past the fear and exhaustion. "Because 30 years ago, my mother was in the same situation, and nobody came." Something cracked in Clara's face. "Your mother?" She was a single mother in Queens. Worked 3 jobs that still weren't enough. She died when I was 8 because she couldn't afford to see a doctor. Clara was silent. Her eyes flicked to her daughter, then back to him. I grew up in foster care after that. Group homes, fighting for food. Ethan's voice was steady, but something underneath it wasn't. I swore that if I ever had the chance to help someone the way no one helped my mother, I would take it. The chain rattled. The door opened wider. Clara stood in the doorway of the saddest apartment Ethan had ever seen. A hot plate on a rickety table, a mattress on the floor, a crib from a garage sale, and the empty formula can on the counter like a monument to everything gone wrong. I'm Clara. This is Lily. Ethan Mercer. He stepped inside, setting down the bags. I believe someone is hungry. The clock hit midnight, just as Lily started eating. Fireworks boomed somewhere outside, probably the wealthy neighborhoods celebrating in style. The sound couldn't quite reach this apartment, only a faint glow made it through the thin window. But Clara wasn't watching fireworks. She was watching her daughter drink for the first time in hours, tiny hands grasping at the bottle, eyes slowly closing in contentment. There you go, sweetheart. There you go. Ethan stood by the window, giving her space. She studied him while Lily fed. He looked different than she'd expected a billionaire to look. She knew who he was. Everyone in finance knew Ethan Mercer. Magazine covers, perfectly tailored suits, settings that screamed money and power. But here in her crumbling apartment, he looked almost human. His coat was expensive, yes, but he'd unbuttoned it and pushed up the sleeves. His hair was slightly disheveled, and his eyes held something she hadn't expected. Loneliness. She recognized it because she saw it in her own mirror every day. You didn't have to do this, Clara said finally. I asked for $50. I know, you also apologized 4 times in 3 sentences. Clara flushed. I've never asked for help like that. What happened? His voice was gentle, not demanding. She could have refused, but something about him, his calmness, his lack of judgment, made her want to tell the truth. I got fired 3 months ago from Harmon Financial. She tested whether the name registered. If it did, he didn't show it. I was an accountant, and I found something in the books, transactions that didn't make sense. Small, but a lot of them, money going to vendors that didn't seem to exist. Ethan's posture shifted slightly, attentive. I asked my supervisor about it. Just a question. A week later, they called me into HR. Position eliminated. They took my laptop before I could save anything. And you were really looking. It's my job. Was my job. Clara adjusted Lily. The numbers stick in my head. They always have. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Harmon Financial Services, I know that company. They're a partner on several projects I'm involved with, including a charitable foundation. Clara looked up sharply. What foundation? Hope Bridge. It provides grants to shelters supporting women and children in poverty. Ethan met her eyes, including a place called Harbor Grace Shelter. The room seemed to shrink around Clara. Harbor Grace, the shelter Evelyn Torres ran. The shelter she'd just tried to reach by texting a billionaire. You're telling me the company that fired me is partnered with your foundation, which funds the shelter where I was going to ask for help? It appears so. That can't be coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences either. Ethan reached into his coat and pulled out a business card. Cream-colored, embossed letters. Mercer Capital. Ethan Mercer, founder and CEO. Keep this. When you're ready, when Lily is fed and you've had time to think, call the number on the back. If what you found is what I think you found, I need to know more. Clara took the card. The paper was thick and smooth. What do you think I found? Ethan's jaw tightened. I think you may have stumbled onto something happening under my nose for years. Something I should have caught and didn't. He moved toward the door. Get some sleep. Take care of Lily. When you're ready, you know where to find me. He was at the door when Clara spoke again. Why are you helping me? Really? Rich people they're not like this. Ethan turned back. In the flickering light, his face looked younger, more vulnerable. Because I remember what it feels like to have no one. And because someone should have helped my mother, and then no one did, and I've spent 30 years trying to be the person who shows up. He paused. Tonight, the need came directly to me. So here I am. The door closed behind him. Clara stood there for a long time, holding Lily, holding the business card, holding the weight of a night that had started with despair and ended with something she was afraid to name. Hope, maybe? Or maybe just the terrifying knowledge that her life had just become very complicated. 3 weeks later, Clara sat in the lobby of Mercer Capital, a 40-story glass tower in Midtown that looked designed to intimidate visitors before they reached the elevator. It was working. She was wearing her only interview outfit, a black blazer from Goodwill, pants that didn't quite match, shoes polished until the scuffs almost disappeared. Lily was at daycare, the first time Clara could afford it since losing her job. Ethan had sent a check after New Year's, just enough to cover a month of childcare and groceries, with a note. No strings. This is so you have time to think clearly. She'd almost sent it back. Pride was a hell of a thing. Then Lily got an ear infection, emergency room, antibiotics, bills she couldn't pay. That's when Clara picked up the phone. Now here she was, waiting to interview for a job she didn't understand with a man who confused her in ways she couldn't name. Miss Whitmore? The receptionist gestured toward the elevators. Mr. Mercer is ready for you. The executive floor was glass and chrome and carefully positioned greenery. Ethan's assistant, Helen, elegant and silver-haired, led Clara through an open workspace where people in expensive clothes solved expensive problems. She felt their eyes. Who is she? Why is she here? What does Ethan Mercer want with her? She wondered the same things. His office was enormous. Windows on 2 sides framed Manhattan like a photograph. Desk the size of a small aircraft carrier. Art that belonged in a museum. And Ethan, standing by the window in a charcoal suit, looking nothing like the man who'd carried grocery bags into her apartment. Clara, please, sit. She perched on the edge of an expensive leather chair. Before we talk about work, Ethan said, taking the seat beside hers instead of behind the desk, I want to make something clear. Whatever you decide, the help I've provided comes with no conditions. If you don't want this job, you're under no obligation. Those were gifts, not payments. She hadn't expected that. I understand. Good, he leaned back. I've had my team run a quiet audit of transactions between Harmon and my Hope Bridge Foundation. Clara's stomach dropped. What did you find? Nothing conclusive, which is suspicious. The records are too clean, too perfect. In my experience, when something looks that perfect, it's been manufactured. I don't have proof. They took everything. You have your memory. You said numbers stick. They do, but I can't go to the FBI and say, I remember transactions I can't document. No, but you can help me find new evidence. Ethan's eyes met hers. I want to hire you, not as a regular accountant. I need you working directly with me. Special projects, internal investigations. Clara stared at him. Why me? You have teams of auditors, people with credentials, people who might be compromised. His voice hardened. The person I suspect has been here from nearly the beginning. He has allies everywhere. I need someone I can trust, someone who doesn't owe anyone here anything, someone who already found something once. You think you can trust me? We've met twice. You could have asked for much more than $50. When you realized who I was, you could have made demands. Instead, you've been trying to figure out how to pay me back for formula. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. That tells me more about your character than any background check. Clara felt her face warm. What exactly would this job involve? He outlined it. Special Projects Auditor, reporting directly to him. Access to all financial records. Salary 3 times her old pay plus benefits. On-site daycare. Lily could be in the same building. It was the best offer she'd ever received, also potentially the most dangerous. If I find something, what happens to me? Last time, I lost everything. Last time, you were alone. This time, you have me. Clara thought about Lily, about bills, about Harbor Grace and all the women depending on support that might be getting stolen. When do I start? The first month was observation, learning systems, workflows, rhythms, learning to walk through halls where everyone wondered who this nobody was. She also learned to watch Douglas Crane. Ethan hadn't told her who he suspected, but she wasn't stupid. The CFO of Mercer Capital was 52, silver-haired and silver-tongued, with charisma that made people want to agree with him. He'd been Ethan's partner since nearly the beginning, one of the first investors, one of the architects of growth. He was also the person who signed off on all charitable disbursements. Miss Whitmore. Crane approached her in the break room one afternoon. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I don't believe we've been introduced. Douglas Crane. Mr. Crane, nice to meet you. Ethan tells me you're working on special projects. Very mysterious. The words were light, but something lurked underneath. What exactly are these special projects? Mr. Mercer has me well set up. Of course. Another smile. Well, if you need anything, my door is always open. He walked away. Clara texted Ethan. Cray introduced himself, asked about my work. Reply seconds later. We knew he'd notice. Be careful. Weeks turned into months. Clara settled into a routine. Daycare drop-off at 7:30, work until 6, dinner and bath time and sleep. And somewhere between spreadsheets, she started to know Ethan Mercer. It began with late nights. Clara often stayed past 6, chasing threads in the data. Ethan kept late hours too, not because he had to, but because he seemed to have nowhere else to be. They'd end up talking. About work at first, then about other things. Tell me about your mother, Clara asked one night, when the office was empty and the city glittered outside. Ethan went still, that thing he did deciding how much to expose. Marguerite? Maggie? To everyone who knew her. She came from Haiti at 19, no money, barely any English, but this belief that things could be better. That if she worked hard enough, she could build a life. Did she? She tried, 3 jobs. I barely saw her sometimes. But when she was there, his voice softened. She was completely there, telling me stories about Haiti, about our family, about who she wanted me to become. Clara thought of her own mother, double shifts at the factory, hands cracked and raw, still finding energy to help with homework. How did she die? Pneumonia. Started as a cold she couldn't take time off for. By the time she went to a clinic, it was too far gone. I'm sorry. It was 30 years ago. Grief doesn't expire. Clara knew this. What happened after? Foster care, group homes, learning to survive. Ethan's jaw tightened. I learned that asking for help marks you as a target. The only person who saves you is yourself. And you did. I built something. He looked at her. Whether that's the same as saving, sometimes I wonder. All this money, all this power, and I still feel like that 8-year-old waiting for someone to come back for him. Clara reached out and touched his hand. First physical contact since that first night. Ethan looked down at her hand on his. He didn't pull away. You came for me, Clara said quietly. That night, you didn't have to. You needed help. So did you. The words felt true. You were alone in that penthouse with an unopened champagne bottle, and you drove to the Bronx because a stranger's text made you feel less alone. Something caught in his breath, a small loss of composure. Maybe, he admitted. They sat in silence, her hand on his, watching the city lights. Something was shifting between them, something dangerous and inevitable. One night, Lily got sick. Clara had to leave early. Ethan didn't just let her go, he drove her home, bought medicine, stayed until Lily's fever broke. You don't have to do this, Clara said, voice tired but warm. I know, but I want to. That was the first time Clara let herself think that maybe Ethan wasn't just her employer. By March, Clara had found the pattern. It was elegant. Whoever designed the theft had skill. Small amounts, never enough to trigger flags. Distributed across dozens of vendors, many legitimate, until you traced the money. Shell companies in multiple jurisdictions until the trail went cold. But Clara's memory didn't let trails go cold. She remembered the vendors from Harmon. She found the same names, or suspiciously similar ones, in Hope Bridge's records. Someone had been stealing from the foundation for years. Millions that should have gone to shelters, to children's programs, to people like her, diverted into accounts she was slowly tracing back to their source. And all the authorizations led to Douglas Crane. She presented her findings to Ethan after hours. This is Crane. She spread printouts across his desk. The shell companies trace back to entities he controls. The timing correlates with his travel schedule, and these transactions are identical to what I saw at Harmon. Ethan studied the documents. His face was unreadable, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. How long? At least 5 years, possibly longer. How much? Clara had done the math, between $12 and $15 million. Ethan set the papers down carefully. Douglas Crane, I trusted him with everything. He was there when I was nothing, just a kid with an idea and no backing. He believed in me before anyone else. I'm sorry. Don't be. You did your job. He looked up. We need more. Crane has lawyers. We need a witness who can connect the dots. I might know someone. Clara had been preparing. When I worked at Harmon, there was a manager, Tommy Rise. He tried to warn me. I think he knew, but he was too scared. Find him, carefully. The office door opened without warning. Douglas Crane stood in the doorway, silver hair perfect, suit impeccable, a smile fixed. Working late? I saw the light on. Clara's heart spiked, but she forced calm. The documents faced Ethan. Crane couldn't see details, just quarterly reports, Ethan said smoothly. Clara has a talent for finding inconsistencies. Does she now? Crane's eyes moved to Clara. I've been meaning to chat with you, Miss Whitmore. Perhaps you could spare time tomorrow. Of course. Let Helen know. Crane nodded, smile never wavering. Don't stay too late, you two. Nothing here is worth losing sleep over. He left. Clara didn't breathe until the elevator closed. He knows, she said quietly. He's watching me. Then we move faster. A week later, Crane cornered Clara alone in her office. Miss Whitmore, I hear you're working very hard. Clara kept her voice steady. That's my job. Crane smiled, not reaching his eyes. I'll be direct. You have a young daughter. You just got stability. Don't let curiosity destroy that. Clara's blood went cold. Some questions, Crane continued, once asked, can't be taken back. Think carefully about which ones you want to ask. He left. That night, Clara told Ethan about the meeting. Ethan's jaw tightened with fury. Not at Clara, at Crane's audacity. He just exposed himself. If he were innocent, he wouldn't threaten you. They moved the plan forward. Ethan scheduled an internal meeting, a trap to force Crane's hand. The night before the meeting, Ethan came to Clara's apartment. Lily was asleep. I need you to know, if this goes wrong, people will want to hurt you. I can protect you, but you have to want that. Clara looked at him. Why do you care about me so much? I'm just an employee. Ethan was silent. Then voice lower. You're not just an employee. You're the first person, after a very long time, who made me want to protect someone. They didn't say anything else. But the distance between them had changed. The meeting happened in Ethan's conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture worth more than Clara's lifetime earnings. Present, Ethan, Clara, Douglas Crane, and Maggie Chen, Mercer Capital's chief legal officer, silver-haired and calm. Clara presented her findings. 20 minutes, methodical, transaction flows, shell companies, signatures tracing to one source. Crane's smile disappeared. This is absurd. Circumstantial patterns with innocent explanations. The patterns aren't circumstantial, Clara replied. The shell companies trace to entities you control. The signatures are yours. The same structures appeared at Harmon Financial, where I was terminated for asking questions. Crane switched tactics, attacked Clara. She's a disgruntled former employee looking for revenge. This investigation is compromised by her obvious bias. What is her relationship with you, Ethan, that she's even sitting here? Ethan stood. Enough, Douglas. Crane pressed. 12 years, Ethan. You'd believe a stranger over your partner of 12 years? Ethan looked him dead in the eye. I think 12 years ago I trusted the wrong person. The room froze. Maggie Chen spoke. Mr. Crane, I've independently verified everything Miss Whitmore presented. It's all accurate. Furthermore, we have a witness. The door opened. Tommy Rise walked in, pale but determined, carrying a briefcase. Hello, Mr. Crane? Been a while. Crane's face drained of color. Tommy's voice shook but was clear. I have copies of everything you made us delete. I've kept them 5 years, waiting for the right time. Today is that time. Crane didn't accept defeat. You think it's this simple? I didn't work alone. There are people more powerful than Ethan behind this. If I fall, they'll destroy everyone. A threat and a confession. Maggie held up her phone. I've been recording since this meeting started. Legal, since all participants were notified of documentation. You just confessed in front of witnesses and on tape. Crane lunged for the door. Security was waiting outside, Ethan's orders. 12 years. Ethan's voice was ice. I gave you everything, and you stole from women and children who had nothing. FBI agents entered. Maggie had contacted them when the evidence was solid. Douglas Crane was handcuffed. At the door he turned. His eyes found Clara. Pure hatred. This isn't over. You've made powerful enemies. Then he was gone. Clara finally breathed. The aftermath stretched months. Crane's arrest unraveled a network beyond Mercer Capital. Executives at Harmon were implicated, creating scandal that dominated business news for weeks. Clara testified before a grand jury. She sat in rooms with lawyers and investigators, telling her story over and over. The numbers she'd noticed, the questions she'd asked, the retaliation, the wrong number text that led her to the one person with power and will to make things right. Journalists loved it. The struggling single mother who brought down a financial empire. They wanted interviews, book deals, movie rights. Clara declined them all. I want you to run the foundation. 6 weeks after Crane's arrest, the Hope Bridge Foundation needed new leadership. Clara stared at Ethan. I don't have an MBA. You have something better, integrity. You saw something wrong and refused to look away, even when it cost everything. Clara thought about Harbor Grace, about Evelyn Torres, about all the women depending on support that had been stolen. The foundation funds Harbor Grace, the place that took me in. Yes, I could make sure the money actually reaches people who need it. Yes. Clara took a breath. Okay, I'll do it. One year later, December 31st. Clara stood on the balcony of Ethan's penthouse watching fireworks over Manhattan. Inside, the penthouse had transformed. Photos on walls, Clara and Lily at the park, at the zoo, at holiday parties, a high chair in the kitchen, baby gates in hallways. All the mess of actually living in a space instead of existing in it. Exactly 1 year, Ethan said, standing beside her. Since you sent that text? Since I accidentally asked a stranger for $50. Clara shook her head. I was so humiliated when you showed up. You were terrified, but you let me in. I didn't have much choice. Lily was hungry. You always have choices. Ethan's voice was quiet. You could have refused, tried to handle everything alone. Instead, you took a chance on the possibility that things could be different. The clock on his phone hit midnight. Fireworks intensified across the city. Happy New Year, Clara. Happy New Year, Ethan. He kissed her, soft and certain. Inside, her phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn Torres. Happy New Year, sweetheart. Saw the article about your foundation expansion. Your mama would be so proud. So am I. Clara smiled, tears prickling. 1 year ago, she'd been alone and desperate, typing a message to someone who couldn't receive it. The miracle had come. It looked like a man in a coat, standing in her doorway with formula and eyes full of ghosts. It looked like a job and purpose and a chance to help people who'd once helped her. It looked like falling in love with someone who understood that wealth meant nothing without connection, that power meant nothing without purpose. Lily stirred in her sleep, that soft sound through the baby monitor. Clara heard Ethan's breath catch, the way it always did. I should check on her, Clara said. Let me. Ethan released her hand. I've got it. She watched him go. The billionaire who'd never had a family, walking toward the nursery where a child who wasn't his by blood had somehow become his in every way that mattered. Her phone buzzed again. Evelyn. P.S. Thank you for the new funding. The shelter is going to help so many more people. You've done good, Clara. Clara typed back, Thank you, Mrs. Evelyn. I had a lot of help. Behind her, Ethan's voice came soft through the monitor. Hey, little one. It's okay. I'm here. Clara smiled and stepped inside. The new year was already beginning. And so, a wrong number became the right destiny. Sometimes miracles don't come from heaven, they come from strangers who choose to care. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more powerful stories every day. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.